So typically I tend to be a fan of cushioned shoes, so naturally over time people have started recommending the Novablast to me, and I haven't gotten around to picking one up until now. So after a few runs of the shoe, I'm ready to give you my first impressions. Just a quick disclaimer though that Asics did provide me the shoes for the purpose of review, but that does not influence anything I'm about to say. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the specs. So the stack height of this guy is 43 millimeters in the heel and 35 in the forefoot, measured with World Athletic Standards, which includes the outsole and insole. With just the midsole, it's 30 in the heel and 22 in the forefoot. This gives it an 8 millimeter heel to toe drop. Comes in at under 9 ounces at 8.9. And it cost $140, which is a $10 price increase. And I put this in the everyday trainer category. Alright, so there's a lot of changes with the Novablast 3, so let's talk about what's new in the shoe overview. The upper now uses a jacquard mesh that has some recycled plastic material in it. The tongue loses the padding but is now partially gusseted. The midsole now uses Flight Foam Plus instead of regular Flight Foam. It also has an extra millimeter of stack compared to last year. Plus, the origami folds of the midsole changed to make the ride a little more stable. The outsole technically gets downgraded from AHAR Plus to regular AHAR rubber, but that does help save some weight. As for the fit of the shoe, I found it to fit true to size. It had a good length on it. There was enough room in the toe box where my feet were comfortable, but it didn't feel like they were sliding around. So now let's get into the fun part, the ride of the shoe, and how my first impressions of it are. So like I mentioned, this is my first time trying out a Novablast, but it's also my first time trying out Flight Foam Blast Plus. So with the Novablast 2, I heard a lot of people said that the heel was very unstable. I haven't had that issue with the Novablast 3. It does have a wider base back there, which I think helps, but then the redesigned origami grooves I think is one of the main things that helps make it a little more stable than last year. As for the foam itself, it's soft enough where you sink in a little, but then it still bounces back nicely and gives you that little extra pop in your step. So I was a little worried that this might be a little unstable with the thick amount of cushioning and it being a little bit of a softer foam, but it's not like other foams where sometimes it's a little too soft and it can be unstable, like sometimes with some New Balance Fuel Cell shoes. I thought that this did a good job of still having that squishiness but not being too soft that you're gonna feel super unstable, wobbly, or just like you're running through mush. So when I was cruising on an easy day, this shoe felt super comfortable. Just rolling through my strides and it felt nice and cushioned. But then when I was doing moderate runs and picking up the pace, I was, landing more on my forefoot and I was getting that nice, really responsive ride and it felt pretty energetic, honestly. So I think that this is going to be a very versatile shoe where it kind of covers all your training needs for doing some easy days or picking up the pace. Alright, I'm going to do a couple of quick comparisons to the Novablast 3, and the first shoe is the ZoomX Invincible from Nike. Now, I was really excited about this shoe because it's a full ZoomX trainer from Nike, and I do like this shoe, but I think it is very overbuilt. The upper has a little bit too much cushioning in places. This heel is super thick, has a ton of foam in it that I don't necessarily think needs to be there. And then I thought in the forefoot there's honestly a little too little foam. Right under my toe I felt like it was breaking down and wished there was more cushion there. So I like the idea, but I think it needs a few tweaks. The Novablast 3 on the other hand I think is the silhouette that the ZoomX Invincible should have, where it still has a wide, stable base, but it's not as chunky as the ZoomX Invincible. And then it does have that nice cushioning underneath the forefoot, and then that more minimal upper. So overall, these are two very cushioned, very bouncy shoes, but I think that the ZoomX Invincible is perfect for long days, while the Novablast 3 is gonna get you covered on pretty much any other run. Now the next shoe I think is a good comparison is the Hoka Mach, and this is going to be specifically about the Mach 4, but also throw in the Mach 5 a little as well. I personally haven't tried the Mach 5 yet, but I've heard that the new Profile Plus foam makes it a little bouncier. But anyways, I think that these two are good comparisons because they are both very versatile trainers. They both have minimal uppers that have just enough padding to get you through your daily training, but not too much where it gets in the way of picking up the pace. Both of the midsoles are very cushioned, but they're not too soft and spongy where you can't get that nice responsive toe off when you're picking up the pace. One area that the Novablast really excels at over the Mach 4 and 5 is the outsole, because this one does use actual rubber, while these are just the rubberized foam. So this is going to take a win in the durability department in that sense. I think right now that these two shoes are pretty similar, but I think especially the Mach 5 with that bouncier foam is honestly a pretty good comparison to the Novablast 3. Me personally, I think that the Mach 4 feels a little speedier. It feels like there's a little less underfoot and it's a little better for picking up the pace, but it's hard to beat just the all-around versatility of the Novablast 3. So Asics Flight Foam Blast Plus is nice and bouncy and responsive, and it's not even their flagship foam, and this is kind of similar to what you'd find in some other companies' flagship foams, but at a pretty normal, reasonable price, which is pretty cool. This also isn't your dad's shoes. Just a few years ago when you said Asics, people would think of, like a blue and gray bulky Kayano or something like that. And I can say that this is not your father's shoe. This is definitely something that's out there to compete with the Nikes and the Hokas, your modern trainer. So I'm definitely going to be putting a lot more miles on this shoe, putting it through all the different run types, and I'll give you my final verdict in my full review. I will also be giving you my first impressions on another shoe that uses Flight Foam Blast Plus, and that is the Magic Speed 2. So subscribe so you don't miss that. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep on running.